Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast, a space to pause, breathe, and come back to yourself, even in the middle of a full and busy life. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and in each episode, we explore mindfulness for real life, simple practices, reflections, tools to help you feel grounded, present, and connected to what matters most to you. So let's settle in and let's get centered. Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and I am so glad you are here. In today's solo episode, we're exploring how to start a meditation practice. This is one of the most common questions I get when I do speaking engagements or when I'm starting a coaching engagement with a client who is managing a lot of anxiety and they're wanting some tools, they're wanting some resources. Establishing a meditation practice can be a very helpful, grounding, resource-building practice. And it's also not for everybody. So today on the pod, I'm going to break down how to start a meditation practice, some of the biggest myths and blocks that come up for us, some strategies of how to create consistency with your practice so that you too can feel resourced and supported if a meditation practice is something you are wanting to build in your life. And if you are in the Seattle area, I welcome you to join me and my co-host for a day-long solstice meditation, mindfulness, breath work retreat happening this Sunday, June 14th. This retreat is open to people of all levels and experiences with meditation, breath work, and mindfulness. So if you've been wanting to touch and taste and incorporate these practices in your life and don't know where to start, this could be an amazing experience for you. Check out more information in my show notes of how to sign up or how to join the waitlist for future mindfulness retreats. Now let's settle into this episode, whether you're taking it on a walk, cooking, commuting, wherever you are, I welcome you to settle in and let's get centered. One of the biggest misconceptions I hear from participants, whether they're in a speaking engagement or in a coaching program I'm facilitating or in a mindfulness class I'm hosting, is this misconception that they're not good at meditation. And they don't feel like they're good at meditation because they think that their mind is too busy or too full. And so I hear like, oh, I'm not good at meditating because I can't quiet my mind. And whenever I hear this belief, it's this like, of course you don't think you're good at meditation. And of course it feels unpleasant to have a busy mind and meditation might feel frustrating. But you are doing it correctly if you are noticing that your mind is busy and full. And what I also say is congratulations, you are human. I remember when I started my meditation practice, I first began in college. I did it for a course and we had to meditate, I think it was for like 10 to 20 minutes a day for 8 weeks or something like that. And we had to keep a journal and track our experience. And I can't remember what my initial experience was when I started practicing for this course. But what I did notice over those 8 weeks of how much meditating helped me with test and homework anxiety and time anxiety and eating anxiety, and how much more it just allowed me to rest into the present moment instead of feeling like I'm pushing or trying to control it or feeling behind. And after these 8 weeks in my course, I dropped my practice. I was like, oh, that was something that happened and now it's done and cool. Fasting forward about 1.5 years later, I'm studying abroad in Buenos Aires, Argentina. and I find the swollen lymph node on the right side of my neck. And after going to doctor's appointments in Spanglish, I was given this diagnosis that I have cancer. And so I flew back to New York City. I started to go through chemotherapy. And I remember before I started treatment, feeling so much anxiety and overwhelm and fear. And in that moment, I remember turning to my mother, who was sitting with me at the time, and I said, "Mom, I want to start meditating again," because I knew and I had this felt sense of how powerful my meditation practice was for me during a time in life, college, studying, feeling overwhelmed, was so helpful for me that I knew I needed something like that. I was in this moment of complete loss of like, oh my God, I'm searching for something to keep me afloat because I could just feel like these emotions of fear and uncertainty and anxiety were just about to swallow me whole. So I reached for what was helpful in the past, which was my meditation practice. And this time I'm restarting. So I would grab a pillow off of the couch, pop a squat, and I would practice sitting for just 1 minute. 1 minute, breathing, feeling my mind soften, noticing the thoughts, noticing sound. And that 1 minute, I remember staring, like looking at the DVD player that was right in front of me and looking at the time shift. And just sitting there for 1 minute felt so challenging. It felt like ants were in my pants. I wanted to get up. I wanted to keep moving. I felt like I was wasting the day by sitting there. I felt the swirl of uncomfortableness just by sitting still. And I want to name this because I think people see me where I am now as a meditation teacher, as somebody who does multiple day-long silent meditation retreats. I've gone on a month-long silent meditation retreat. I'm thinking like, how do you actually practice? And I am here to tell you, I started just where you are right now. I came to this practice because of this deep desire to need something bigger than myself to help myself navigate something bigger than myself. And so once I could feel like I could sit for 1 minute, even if I was squirmy, my eyes opened, my mind wandered. And once I felt like I could sit for 1 minute, I started to stretch myself. Can I sit now for 2 minutes? Can I sit for 3 minutes, 5 minutes? Slowly building and stretching myself to be with what is. And eventually I got to a place where I could sit for 10 minutes and 20 minutes. And then eventually I got to a place where I could sit like years later for 45 minutes and an hour. So I share this with you transparently because we don't just magically get there. The there is the journey to there. And to get there, we have to go through a lot of discomfort. Doesn't always have to be uncomfortable, but a lot of growth, a lot of stretching, a lot of working with resistance to then feel and see and connect to something different. If we are somebody that hasn't been to the gym in a while and we're going back into the gym for the first time, we don't go to the gym and pick up a 20-pound weight and get going. We start with 2 pounds, maybe 5 pounds. And over time, we build our muscles to be able to handle more resistance. And this is the same technique that is helpful when we think about our meditation practice. We want to slowly build our capacity to sit, to be with what is here, the pleasant, the unpleasant, the neutral moments. And so my meditation practice started out as this lifeline to help me manage anxiety, manage the stress, the overwhelm of life. And over the last 16 years, my practice still has that flavor to it, but it's definitely expanded into more of a spiritual practice, a practice where I can feel more connected to something bigger than myself, more connected to other living beings, trees, humans, the heartbeat of the world. And my practice has become a way, sometimes I use the word tool, but a way into helping me live more authentically, to helping me hear and feel and know my own voice, to know my own needs, to listen to the wisdom of my body, and to support me taking that awareness to make more wise choices in my life. When I say wise, I am really referring to aligned choices, whether that's food choices, like what I'm going to order off of the menu, to saying yes or no to plans, to designing my future. Now, in my coaching practice, I never force a meditation practice on anybody because it's not something you can do. Coming to a meditation practice really has to come from you, the individual. And so if you are listening to this episode, I can pretty much bet that there's something inside of you that's saying, I'm curious about starting a practice. Maybe that's because you've heard all of the research around what it does for our mental health and our well-being, lowers blood pressure, decreases inflammation in the body, supports deeper sleep, slows down the aging process in our cells, supports us building resilience. Maybe you've heard so many different thought leaders or people you admire who have a meditation practice. And so you're like, wow, I want what they have. Or maybe you are facing something really hard in your life and you too are looking for some sort of resources and tools to help you navigate. Whatever is calling you to this practice, I welcome you to just pause here and name it. Maybe it's a value of your health. Maybe it's a deep desire to get more clear in life. Maybe your heart is yearning for more spirituality. Whatever your why is, I welcome you to just take a moment to name it. Maybe write it down. And I would say this is one of the most powerful practices that you can do is ask yourself, why is this important to me? Because if you're not clear on why this is important and meaningful to you, you're not going to do it. But if you get really clear on it, it is a helpful way that reminds you to begin again. So for me, when I was reconnecting to my meditation practice when going through chemo, I had to remind myself, this matters to me because this is my health. This is my mental health. This is my physical health. This is my emotional health. And so prioritizing sitting for those 1, 2, 5 minutes for months was just as important as going to the gym. So when you start to feel shaky or when you start to deprioritize this practice in your life because you think other things create more priority or are more important or make more money, I want you to come back to your why as a grounding reminder. So let's get more into the nuts and bolts. And I'm not going to do a whole, meditation one-on-one class because that's something people hire me to do. But I definitely want to give you some resources and some orientation around meditation, mindfulness, and why and how you can be incorporating this into your life. So what is mindfulness? What is meditation? Because these are words and terms that get thrown around a lot. And what I like to think of is that mindfulness is this practice of us being present and aware moment to moment with a sense of curiosity, with a sense of kindness, and with this ability to accept what is. Meditation is the act of practicing mindfulness. Meditation is like going to the gym so that we can strengthen our mindfulness muscles. And the cool thing is we can practice meditation formally. Maybe you've seen people doing sitting meditation, walking meditation, lying down meditation, standing meditation. Those are the 4 postures that the Buddha talks about being able to practice. And then we can also practice meditation informally. And that looks like mindful eating practices. That looks like mindful speech. That looks like us slowing down to enjoy our morning cup of coffee. That looks like taking a centered walk. And both the informal and formal ways of practicing meditation support us growing, strengthening, flexing our mindfulness muscles, this ability to be present in the moment, moment to moment, with curiosity, with kindness, and acceptance. And what most people forget is that learning how to train our minds to be present and then have these attitudes of curiosity, of kindness, of acceptance, non-judgment, these are all really hard practices. Most of our minds are off in the future or ruminating on the past. And so to train our brain to be present actually takes training. It takes attention, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy. So just like all of us want six-pack abs and a nice firm lifted booty, we put a lot of energy into training our bodies to look a certain way. And we need that same amount of effort and energy to train our brains to be present, especially in this day and age. So when I hear from participants who ask this question of like, oh, I get lost in my thoughts, like my brain is so loud, I'm not good at meditating. Again, I remind them that you are human. All of our brains have like over 60,000 thoughts a day, and we're not conscious of many of them. But research has shown us that practicing being in the present moment actually helps us be happier, feel more fulfilled. And so to train our brain to recognize our thoughts, to slow it down, to just notice and name our experience is a powerful way that we can slowly start to untangle ourselves from our thinking mind and create some space. And when we can create some space between ourself, the I that us humans believe that we are, to what's happening in the brain, when we can see them as separate, when we can see that we are not our thoughts, that our thoughts are not facts, when we can start to see that, we can start to feel it. And that creates a really helpful approach to then more skillfully being with our thoughts, which is a root cause of a lot of our mental health tensions when it comes to depression and anxiety. And again, there are many different strategies that one can flex to learn how to be with your thoughts more skillfully. And that's, again, a whole other training. Or if you're looking for more support on that, you can reach out for some one-on-one mindfulness coaching. But I want you to know, I want you to make sure you leave this episode knowing that you are human and you are right where you're supposed to be if your mind feels busy and full. When we practice being in our meditation practice, whether it's informally or formally, we don't want to get rid of the thoughts. We learn how to be with them. So again, our thoughts aren't bad. Our emotions aren't bad. It's all information. And so learning how to process and get curious and be kind and accepting of all of the information that we experience is part of this work. One of the biggest gifts you can give yourself when you're starting out practicing and you're noticing that tension is just again and again to recognize where your thoughts going. They're going to planning of what I'm going to eat today, or they're going to ruminating on that conversation I just had with my boss. Can you note where they go and come back to the present moment, finding an anchor like your breath or the body or sounds or a word or words? And every time you train your attention to come back to the present moment, come back to your anchor, it's like doing bicep curls. You're strengthening your mindfulness muscles. Now, another common question I hear is like, okay, I get it. I'm excited to start practicing, but where do I go? There's so many different apps out there. What kind of meditations should I try? And I feel you. The world of content is very overwhelming. And I think it can be really helpful to use guided meditations in the beginning to get accustomed to how to self-soothe, how to ground yourself, how to work with thoughts and emotions skillfully and your attention. And then I think over time, it can be really helpful to start to guide yourself. But when it comes to where do I begin, what kind of meditations should I do, I welcome you to just start with whatever is calling your attention. So maybe that's a body scan meditation, or maybe that's a focused attention meditation, or maybe that's walking meditations, or maybe that's using breath as an anchor, or loving kindness meditations, or mantra meditations. As my mentor, Diana Winston, says, when we think of meditations, especially in the formal realm, there's so many different types. Just like you think of sports, there's so many different types of sports out there. And you won't know if you like any of those sports or if you're good at any of those sports until you try them. And it's the same with meditation, except it's not about being good or bad with these meditations like sports. It's just the practice of doing them, and do they resonate with you? And I always welcome people to pick something that works for them and try to stick with it for a month or two and notice how it, just having that consistency is grounding. Instead of every day maybe selecting something new, can you stick with just one thing for a while, and then maybe you feel complete and you're ready to try a different style? This is the biggest question I get, is how do I make meditation a habit? How do I stick with it? And if you've been here in the Center in the City podcast for a while, you know that I don't love calling it a habit. The word habit is kind of triggering to me. I like to think of a meditation practice as a ritual. It's a way that you are creating some sacred space and time for you, yourself, your life, other people, and the world. And I think some of us can think that our meditation practice is selfish. It's just solo time, just like going to the gym. But I want to remind you, it's really not. When you claim that time and space to do an activity that feeds your soul, whether it's meditation, horseback riding, going to the gym, going for a run, bike ride, when you claim that space, it is filling you up and supporting you showing up as your best, healthiest self. And that is not just for your ego. That is so that you can be a more present partner, person, wife, husband, sister, brother, neighbor, human in this world. And over time, when you do these healthy habits for ourselves, you actually have a bigger heart. You feel more connected to the world around you, and you show up as a more caring participant in this world. So these little micro moments, these mindful moments that I talk about in my book that we do for ourselves are not selfish. They are smart. They are an investment, not in just our longevity for life, but in our way to serve and be an awake and aware person. I want to emphasize that because one of the blocks I hear from a lot of participants and clients is that feeling of constriction and selfishness to take up the space for the ritual. But here is your full permission slip to carve out that time and space for you. Know that this practice that you're doing is bigger than yourself. So really, we should all be thanking you for showing up for you and for us. So when you start your meditation practice, when you bring this ritual into your life, I think it can be really important to first off, remind yourself it's not about being perfect. It is about being consistent and practicing. And some of us need some more structure with how to bring the ritual into our life. Some of us, maybe you listening right now, feel like you want your meditation practice to just be really fluid and something you connect to when you feel motivated. I say, if that works for you, go for it. Most of us need a little bit more structure in our day to find the consistency that it takes to feel the bigger impacts and long-lasting impacts of having a meditation practice. So I welcome you to first think about when in your day do you want to incorporate this practice. And when I say want to, I also want you to really think about realistically. Like you maybe want it to be in the morning, but you realize that's never going to happen. So I want you to think about, when do you ideally want to have this practice in your life that's actually going to fit in your current lifestyle? Not your one day you're going to have the perfect meditation room and space, or your kids are going to be off to college and you're not going to have to take care of them in the mornings. But when do you want to fit this in? In the morning after you brush your teeth? Is that at night after you brush your teeth? Is that in the car right before you get to work, like you park your car and before you walk into the office? Is that after you walk your dog in the morning? Is it at lunchtime? So look at your schedule, take a moment to zoom out and think about your lifestyle Monday through Friday, and when is a realistic and ideal time that you want to commit to practicing. Next, I want you to think about your space and place, so that when you have that time blocked in your day, you think about, okay, now I know where I want to go. Ideally, again, we get to be flexible and fluid with this, but to find some consistency, it can be really helpful to have a meditation station. So for me, it's in the morning after I brush my teeth. I have some water, and that's my cue to go to my meditation cushion, which is in my room. Now, I was just traveling and living abroad for 3 months, and so didn't have my same space. However, I got to take my ritual with me. So it looked a little different, but I would find a new meditation spot and use that same flow of brushing my teeth, having some water, and then finding a new meditation spot to sit in. And remind yourself of your why. Why are you getting up early to go do this? Or why are you, after you walking your dog, sitting? Remind yourself of your why to ground you, to remind you, this is important to me. And I have some clients who, in order to feel like they have a meditation station, that's sometimes the first place that they need to begin, is to actually have a space. Maybe that's clearing off some junk on your couch to sit on one of the cushions. Maybe that's getting a meditation nook set up with a cozy blanket or a candle. Maybe that's buying a meditation pillow. Maybe that's talking to your partner and just saying, hey, can I have these 5 minutes in the morning? Can you take care of the kids and I'll be up to help out? So what supports you carving out that space, making it sacred, and allowing yourself to really, again, take up that physical space and time. And then as you're beginning, start with 1 minute. Then the next day, maybe 2 minutes if you can handle it, or maybe go back to 1 minute. One of the biggest blocks I see for people is that they go to sit down and automatically pick a meditation that is 10 to 20 minutes long, and it self-sabotages them. It's too hard, they don't follow through, and then they feel like they're failing, and then they give up. So start small, start doable, and slowly increase your time and resistance. And then one of the biggest, most important steps that people forget is after they practice, after you complete maybe your 1, 2, 5 minutes of sitting, is to take a moment to celebrate yourself. Acknowledge yourself for following through. Celebrate that you made this space and committed. Now, caveat here, this doesn't mean that the inverse is true. So this doesn't mean that if you missed your practice one day, you need to beat yourself up for missing it. I think that is also a really huge blocker for people, is that when we fall off of our practice, we can be so harsh that we think we don't deserve it, or we're not good at it again, or whatever story we're telling ourselves, that we don't come back to it. So I'm here to remind you that your practice is always here for you, judgment-free. Whether it was a pleasant sit, not pleasant sit, neutral, your practice is here to hold you. Insight is that sometimes, because we're practicing by ourselves, it can feel really isolating. However, if you are somebody who loves being around people and that sense of accountability and social connection feeds you, I welcome you to find communities, whether they're in person, online, or you create your own little accountability group. Find those people that you can meditate with. At UCLA, they have free drop-in meditations that you can join. I love teaching those occasionally. There are so many other communities out there that offer online. Occasionally, I'll do some online free drop-ins, or even joining in-person retreats can be really helpful because our social support to know other people are meditating while we're meditating helps our spine sit up a little taller. We feel supported because it's not just us doing the work. We feel that sense of accountability and social influence. And if you've ever used the Insight Meditation app, they take that same concept and they make it very visual. They show you when you log in who else around the world is meditating right now, so that you too can feel that same felt sense of I'm not alone. There are other people doing this practice right now. And another big block that comes up for people is that they're especially ambitious people, is that they think that meditation is about mastering it, that it's going to eventually get to a place where it's easy, or that they're going to feel like they have plateaued, or that they've got it, or that they've achieved something. And I'm here to remind you that meditating is not about mastering anything. It's not about mastering your mind. Instead, it's learning how to meet ourselves. It's learning how to meet the present moment with more awareness, with more kindness, with more presence, with more acceptance. I remember when I was starting my practice when I was going through chemo, and I was doing it for months, maybe 4 to 6 months, until I had this one physical felt sense in my morning practice where I was like, oh, this is why people meditate. It took me a really long time of being pretty consistent to get to a place where I could feel more space between myself and my thoughts and my experience, where there's a little bit more ease and spaciousness, where the anxious energy in my body and mind didn't feel all consuming. And this place was this like, okay, I now see, and I now can feel and taste. And that gave me this deep desire to keep going. Like, wow, okay, if I can feel this, what else can I cultivate? What other impacts and benefits can I receive? So fast forward 16 years later, it's not that I have mastered anything, but I've gotten to different levels and deepness and shallowness and insight within my practice. And it's so cool because you never know where you're going to go. And sometimes that freaks people out. But for me, it makes each morning when I sit kind of like an adventure, and I'm able to have more curiosity than this need to control. And I think in the beginning of my practice, my meditation practice, because it was so rooted to helping me manage my anxiety, I just wanted to control the experience. I wanted the unpleasantness of my anxiety to go away. And what ended up happening is that the anxiety didn't go away, but I learned how to be in relationship to my anxiety in a different way. In a way that my anxiety wasn't controlling me, but instead was, like sitting in the car behind me, but it wasn't in the front seat driving. Now, if you're somebody who is like, I cannot sit still, that is one of the reasons I created my centered walks. And these are guided walking meditations, because I wanted to support people moving their bodies more, getting outside, getting out of their heads, feeling more present to life, having a moment to meet their emotions and thoughts more skillfully. And so guided walking meditations can be a really helpful tool to practice if sitting formally is not your thing. And if that's something you want to incorporate, that's something you can do in mini breaks throughout your day. And so instead of maybe planning a sitting meditation, you think about, okay, when do I want to take walking breaks? As I look at my schedule, where can I carve out 10, 15 minutes to take multiple little breaks throughout our day? And what's pretty cool is that research is demonstrating that taking these little movement breaks throughout the day, 10, 15 minutes, is actually more impactful for our metabolic health than just doing one 60-minute workout. One of the other blocks, and I mentioned this earlier, that shows up for people is we get so attached, and I put myself in this camp too. Humans, we get so attached to things being perfect or looking perfect. And so we think, oh man, did I just miss my meditation time and my schedule or I'm traveling, so I don't have my meditation space, or my kids woke up from their nap or got up earlier during my meditation time and it just disrupted me. When we don't have that carved out space that we've designated, when that gets usurped by something in life, because it's inevitable, right? Life is not perfect. Life is not constant. We have to be flexible and fluid. So that means our meditation practice is not going to look perfect every day. And we have to be okay with that. And why I walk you through this process is because creating some structure to at least get started and set your intention and get into the rhythm and habit of it is really helpful. However, again, we get to be fluid. So there's both this sense of structure and fluidity that I really welcome you to bring into your practice. And for me, what I discovered is that the more I practiced formal meditation, so for me, sitting meditations in the morning, the more I was able to practice informal meditations, like sitting down and practicing mindful eating at lunch and with breakfast and with snacking, times throughout the day where I could take a little mindful moment break, reset, take a couple deep breaths. For me in my journey, which might be different for you in your journey, it was harder for me to practice informal mindfulness and meditation without having my formal meditation practice. So I recognize that having this consistent formal meditation helped me be able to train my mind and awareness so that I could actually practice being present while sitting and eating, or I could practice being present while in a conversation to feel when I'm getting triggered or hurt. It was harder for me to recognize and bring awareness into eating or into moments of interpersonal connection without having my meditation practice, my formal meditation practice. That being said, you might recognize in your life what you have capacity for and what actually fits your lifestyle right now is just informal meditation practice. Maybe it's just those 2 minutes while you're brushing your teeth that you can slow down and actually be with each tooth, to feel the vibration of your toothbrush, if you're using an electric toothbrush, to feel your feet on the ground, to notice where the weight is distributed in your hips if you're standing, to notice where your thoughts are. Like maybe that is all you have capacity for right now. Or maybe it's an informal meditation practice while you're in the shower and really slowing down to feel the temperature of the water on your face, to have awareness of what the soap smells like and feels like on your hands and as you touch your body with it. So meeting yourself wherever you are is part of this practice without judgment. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's no good, there's no bad. And what I want you to remember is that you just get to start. And by starting, you will start to navigate through. You'll feel wobbly. You'll feel like you're doing it. You'll fall off of the practice. You'll come back to it. Like this is the natural cycle of life. This is the natural cycle of trying something new or building consistency. So I want you to be really kind to yourself and recognize it's a journey of creating this ritual that isn't a straight line, and it looks different and unique for each person. So as we bring this episode to a close, I welcome you to pause with me here and check in. Notice, are there any lingering questions or hesitations or doubts that are coming up for you when thinking about creating a more consistent meditation practice? What are you most excited to do? Can you start to visualize your practice? Can you start to see how it can fit and feel in your life? And then come back to that why this is important to you. Because if it's important to me because somebody told me I should do it, I really welcome you to check back in and see if you can connect to a deeper meaning, one that's coming from you. Connect to that why and let that why be your anchor to support you showing up again and again and again. Thank you for being here and letting me into your ears, your heart, your mind. It is such a gift and a pleasure. And if you have lingering questions or comments, reach out to me on Instagram @OneWade or send me a note linked in the show notes. Until next time, stay centered.